Welcome to Kardec Radio. While you wait for our program to begin, check our new site. It's Kardec Flix, where Spiritism is just a click away. Also, check our publisher, Kardec Publisher, and its first 6 books. Each one is a journey to inner empowerment and love. Kardec Radio, where we nourish ourselves daily.
Hello, dear friends. Good evening and welcome to another What is Spiritism program where you and I are blessed to take advantage and learn directly from the wisdom of Kardec himself. So why is this book so important for all of us? Because Kardec coaches us, teaches us, inspires us to talk to those brothers and sisters of ours who do not yet know what Spiritism is. So this is an opportunity for us to shed light onto the very principles that nourish our souls daily and that continuously transform us for the better, helping you and I, all of us, to progress spiritually and morally as is of the will of God. So we are so grateful to Kardec Radio for offering this platform where we can all learn together with Kardec's eternal wisdom. And to help us bring this wisdom to light even more, we have friends who devote themselves to studying and learning these life-changing principles. We have with us our friends Faye Waddington. Hello, dear friend.
Hello, Carol. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine and lovely. And thanks for having me here.
It's wonderful to have you joining forces with us all the way from England. Thank you, dear friend.
Thank you.
And we also have a friend that is closer by. Our dear friend Luiz Lima. Welcome, dear friend. How are you?
Good, thank you, Carol. Thank you also, Faye, for joining us. And it's such a good feeling being here to have the opportunity to participate in such an important program.
Absolutely. Kardec frames this book in the form of a conversation, of a question and answer process, much like what we are emulating here, because Kardec, as a visionary educator, wanted and still wants to stimulate discernment and faith together. No longer do we have to live in a duality, dear friends. Now we can bring the best of both worlds together, faith and reasoning. And in this particular segment of the book that we are going to discuss tonight, Kardec brings faith and reasoning together masterfully when he tells us regarding the plurality of worlds that it would be foolish of us earthlings, if we could put it in this way, to believe that we are simply privileged to be the only inhabited planet in the universe. Kardec tells us that God could not have created so many globes within the universe merely for the pleasure of our own eyes. This is so enlightening as he puts it so clearly for us to think about. Right, dear friends? What are your thoughts, Luiz?
Yeah, it's well, Kardec is the master of reason. Everything he does with reason, and beautifully and very well explained. And yeah, if you look out, the first question is, why is this all for? You know, and we can go even a little bit more than this, because if you look at the skies, you see all the at the naked eye. Let's not go into astronomy. So at the naked eye, you look outside and you see all these stars and things flashing and twinkling. And okay, but what about during the day? They disappear just because I don't see. So you see, our limited senses, vision being one of them, can trick us, because I cannot say as a rational conclusion that the planets only exist at night. They do not exist in the day. That would be absurd. So that comes from our limitation. What we are allowed to do with our five senses. So if all we do is base or judge, better saying, the world based on our five senses, we're going to be wrong most of the time. So that's what he's trying to say. It's not for the pleasure of my eyes.
Thank you, Luiz, for challenging our limited perceptions yet again, just like Kardec has done. Thank you. And what are your thoughts, dear Faye, regarding Kardec's efforts to invite us to go beyond what the eyes can see?
I think, well, I've excuse me, but I must make this comparison, this analogy with the sky, as you rightly said, because it's been my feeling, and the more I read, the more I study and I hear, I'm more convinced that just as the sky around us is organized in systems and planets and constellations and all that, I think humanity is gifted, is sent a few constellations from time to time, just as we move around the zodiac, as we move around the orbit. From time to time, if you think about it, some major stars and their assisting stars and their constellation just are sent to us on Earth to help, to teach and guide, raise awareness and open ways. And I think I'm more convinced that Kardec is absolutely one mega star in that sense. And if you consider that in their astronomical concept, the stars will be providers of life and energy to other bodies, other celestial bodies. So around these incarnated stars, how many other lives have been developed and how many ways have been opened? And I think, to me, I see Kardec and the people around him like a major constellation.
Absolutely, a constellation of light created, orchestrated by God to help
Oh,
us
yes.
evolve, right, dear friend?
Yeah,
And
you guys inspire me to say something else, if I
please,
may.
Luiz, of
Right.
course. Uh-huh.
Think about this. If somebody says there's no life in other planets, let's just respect the opinion, okay? So there are no inhabitants in other planets. Then I'm gonna say define inhabitants.
Mm.
That's the first thing, because what is an inhabitant for you? It's a person with hair and maybe glasses, I don't know, with arms and feet. Is that what it is for you? Because that changes completely what the interpretation of what Kardec is saying here.
Yeah.
So, most people, it's like inhabitants are people just like us, and not necessarily.
Excuse
That
me.
leads
Yeah.
to this little thing here, this little grain of thought, if you will.
And you feel yeah, and again, picking from your introduction and what you've just said, is and many scholars, until the point when people were completely surrounded by overwhelming electricity everywhere. The night sky was always the time for reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Is the time for awareness, isn't it? It's when you look around and you see, oh, that could be falling onto my head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm floating around all this, in the middle of all this. And that's when the ideas, because people were able to look at skies like that and have that moment of reflection. That's when these ideas of plurality. What's an inhabitant? What is there anyone out there? Who's out there?
Mm-hmm.
And so these ideas become a bit more plausible, because yeah, there must be. And so as if they first thought, well, maybe out there, everyone is like us. There'll be other places like ours.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because there is this seed of thought and reasoning, not really, but there's got to be a diversity.
Yeah. And can I add something else?
Oh, please, Luiz. Yes.
It inspires me to say more and more. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
No, think about this.
Mm.
We have this, we is not the three of us. We, humanity in general, in the
Yeah.
average. We tend to think that the Earth is the only planet, life is here, nowhere else. For those who believe in that, it is such a bad way of seeing things, that we know that the Earth, we're talking a little bit of astronomy here, right? It rotates
Mm-hmm.
at the surface. For people standing at the surface, like you and me right now, we are spinning. Okay, the speed is 1,037 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
However, in order to measure that speed, you cannot be on Earth. Speed, if you're in a car, your speed inside the car is
Relative.
zero, because you don't move.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for people standing on the street seeing you passing by in the car, they will say both the car and Faye and Carol are speeding at whatever, 60 miles per hour.
Yeah.
So you have to step out. You can't be the reference yourself. We don't do this because we believe it's only us. So we cannot tell at all that we are at 1,037 miles per hour. And not only that, the Earth itself, as a planet, think of a ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
It moves because it orbits around the sun. That speed, the speed of translation of the Earth, is 67,000 miles an hour. We can't tell. People come to say us, and we say, "No, you're cuckoo." And we are not. It's because we are using ourselves as a reference. That's the first problem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We are dethroning God when we think like this.
Beautifully said, Luiz. The issue of the mistaken perception that we cherish is because we use ourselves as the number one point of reference.
Yeah.
But thanks to Spiritism, we now have an array of other points of reference, a diverse pool of points of references. Allow me to give you both an example so we can continue our conversation now, adding other points of reference to our discussion. For instance, in the Spiritus magazine that Kardec published in 1858, there is an interview that he conducted mediumistically with the musician Mozart. And exactly because Mozart was able to do the movement that you just described, which is to leave the Earth and visit another planet, he was then able to break away from the quote unquote standard perception and shed greater light onto the perception that we hold. So Mozart did an internship in Jupiter, according to Kardec's description. And we know in the classification of worlds, morally speaking, that Jupiter falls in the happy planet scale, in the happy planet end of that scale of the classification of progress. And Mozart is beautifully able to describe how everything in Jupiter honors God, because you're right, Luiz, without God, we are nothing. And with God, we are everything, right?
Yeah.
Because he provides everything to us. So Mozart acknowledges exactly what you said, Luis, and describes to Kardec and all of us that there in Jupiter, even the plants and the animals are reverent to God, that there is no need to write music there because everything is already musical, in a sense that everything literally is worshiping the creator out of love. So now we believe, and because we know, we don't believe out of dogma that there is the plurality of worlds. We believe because we know, because our perception has widened. Right, Luis?
Right.
Yeah, that's right. And we have other information from other planets as well. Not only Jupiter, which is the most documented of all, but we have information on Venus and other planets also more advanced than us. And these are only here. These are neighbors. Imagine
Yes.
out
Our
there.
neighbors, yes.
These are neighbors. Yeah, so,
Absolutely.
all of these things, uh, uh, they challenge our minds to try to see things beyond the physical aspect of a planet, like roughly balls and things around them, and that's part of a spiritual connection that we have. It's not an academic study. Like you said, it's a knowledge. It's not a belief.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a belief in the beginning, but when you get information like what we have today available to us from Spiritism, we go from belief to knowledge, and that changes
Absolutely.
everything.
Yes.
Yes.
And one person, Faye, that has made this journey from believing to knowing is Camille Flammarion, because he studied Spiritism, became a friend of Kardec,
Yeah.
and was able to draw parallels between his own studies and Kardec's very
Yeah.
studies very wisely. Would you like to speak a little bit about Camille Flammion's finding
Yeah.
regarding the plurality of worlds?
Yeah. Sure. Pleasure. He, for me, to whenever I read and I study, I try to prove and disprove my own views, my own beliefs, and my own instinct. And you had said something of believing from dogma, and that's straight away sprung this idea that there's the disbelieving by dogma, because and that's one thing that Flammarion brings, and other scholars also bring, which is the fact that, let's not forget, who was it? Leon Denis said that too. Yeah. The thing is, if you think of it, even today, and this is one thing that I find that the Spiritism is liberating in that sense. If you think of all the original so-called primitive or the tribal communities, all the original peoples throughout history and in our world still today, everyone has the concept of cosmos, of a connection to cosmos. And through education, so-called education from the different eras, I consider I'm a teacher, so I feel pretty much at ease to say that, because there are lots of things that I like and lots I don't like. But people are saying, oh no, this is the way to think, that one doesn't work. And people will keep their instincts and try to adapt to an idea that doesn't make sense. One of them is, there's nothing out there. When everyone knows, everything is out there. And so what Flammarion, when he decided to write about this particular point, about the transmigration of souls, he says that he understood, that's how he understood Spiritism, and he says he explained this evolutionary concept by telling not that people are observers of the sky, but man is a citizen of the sky. And that changes everything. And if you think of man as a citizen of the sky, then and forever, and then you find a group, you find in Kardec a scholar, and everyone who corroborates his view, not because they simply like him, adore him as a friend, but because scientifically they can use all the means, all the scientific means to study that and say, well, that's just one line that does make sense.
You're right, Faye. And speaking of collaborators that contribute to this work, always in progress, because Spiritism is also a science, we know of Emmanuel, who dictated the book On the Way to the Light through the mediumship of Chico Xavier. And in the book On the Way to the Light, Emmanuel describes exactly what you pointed our attention to, the fact that spirits from other planets that did not comply with the rate of progress of their planets were invited to temporarily reincarnate on Earth to expedite the Earth's progress. and and Emmanuel even tells us who those peoples were at the time.
Exactly. What do we do on Earth if not replicate a system we've learned before?
Mm-hmm.
What are schools? What are degrees? What are classes?
Mm-hmm.
What are challenges and tests and understanding and retraining? Where does that come from? To me, that is a replication, of course, adapting to the circumstances, to the local circumstances, the planetary circumstances, and the local for every village.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not one formula suit all. But that's isn't that the evolutionary framework?
Yes, you're right.
And
And
then, and that's what Flammarion said. Well, he calls the worlds, or the other worlds, are studios of human work,
mm-hmm.
not prisons, not hospitals, not challenges, not punishment. Studios, schools.
Schools. Beautiful, beautiful framework of hope for all of us
Yeah.
as we are bound to progress. And Luiz, since our dear Faye brought to us such a beautiful concept, that of the citizens of the universe, that all of us are citizens of the skies, which we are, we also learn through the Spiritist science that there are categories to the many worlds. Our Master Jesus already told us 2,000 years ago that there were many houses in the Father's universe. And then we know that in chapter 3 of the Gospel, according to Spiritism, in under the instructions from the spirits, Saint Augustine mediumistically dictates a beautiful dissertation where he specifically and didactically, as a teacher of the spirit, explains to all of us the specific characteristic of each planet in the scale of evolution. Since you have been a studious spiritist yourself regarding the process of evolution, would you like to speak to us a little bit on this regard, Luiz, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, his message, St. Augustine's message, is very, very straightforward. It's like I like to say, black and white. So there's no room for it could be this, it could be that. No, we couldn't, because it's very simple. It's very direct. So what it says is, we can understand, all these worlds out there. We can categorize them in 5 groups, or group them in 5 categories. And the reason for that is for us to understand. It's almost like an academical thing. So we can understand that there are different levels. So we go from the levels where morality and intellectuality is down here, all the way to the most advanced ones. So the least advanced ones are called primitive worlds. Those are worlds that will receive spirits in their first human reincarnations. That's how they start. They have to go to worlds that are very. Everybody has to be on a world that is adequate for, that fits the purpose of their lives. So these spirits have to go to worlds like this. They're called primitive worlds. Primitive worlds for first incarnations of the human soul. Then we go to the next level, called trials and expiations. Trials and expiations is us. Hello, it's us. What is trials and expiations? Trials is like when you go to do at, for example, school, academic school. At the end of the year, you have to show that you learned something. So you go through tests, different tests and quizzes. That's what the trials part is. We are going to be submitted to things that we haven't known yet to see if we are able to handle them properly. What is handled properly? Making the right choices. Expiations means I flunked. I have to go back and retake that test because I failed on the first time. Maybe I failed on the second time, third time, until the day that I don't fail on that particular thing anymore, and then I advance. That's what expiations are for to offset the wrongdoings of the past. I don't like to use the word pay for wrongdoings because it could be a different meaning. So to offset wrongdoings of the past. So people in our level here, all of us, we have to go to places like the earth. The earth is just one of the trials and expiations worlds. There are others. Then we go to the next level, which is regenerative worlds, or worlds of regeneration.
Yeah.
And those, by the way, trials and expiations, evil dominates.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost absurdly like this. We do evil as the first choice. If we can't do it, then I'll do the good. It's almost like this, unfortunately. That's the level that we are. Evil dominates. On the third level, regenerative worlds, there's still expiation, but without all the struggles that we go through. These struggles for us at our level mean we become, we rebel against God and other things. We want to do things our way. We make it worse for ourselves because we don't understand exactly why. When you go to the next level, regeneration, that doesn't exist anymore. I still have to expiate because I still have to offset the wrongdoings of the past. Then we go to the next level, which are called happy worlds. Happy worlds, good outweighs evil. Good is the reference. And then we go to the next one up, and the last one, which is divine worlds. This is for purified spirits. So that ties the moral evolution of each soul to where they have to be in order to perform the jobs that they have to. So it's a very, very nice message by St. Augustine.
Yes, indeed. And Faye, Kardec himself also elaborates on this scale of evolution right here in the book that we are studying, What is Spiritism? In the last segment of the chapter, Kardec elaborates, just like St. Augustine and Luiz just did, on the scales of the evolution of the many planets. When you read this particular segment, what called your attention the most regarding the insights that Kardec shares with all of us?
I think, excuse me if I seem to be biased towards one aspect of seeing things, but my understanding was one more way, and a magnificent way, to clarify and to bring to us that we're all part of a large cosmic project. That all these ideas are brought for understanding, to promote understanding and the betterment of humankind, because he did not write for any sector in particular. It's not any group, but it's open. It's an open information and free to whoever would care to even think about it. And it doesn't. It's not. Yeah, it's not concealed from anything or from anyone. It's open, democratic, free. because it's talking about trying to remind people or who they are, who we are. So, well, do you remember that you are made of the same elements that any other celestial body is made of? So that we are all one?
Mhm.
You know,
Absolutely.
every time I read it, it brings me back to this concept.
Mhm. Beautifully said, Faye. You're reminding us of how the divine laws are all encompassing, and they are a moral code that we shall carry with us for immortality. So you're right, this one moral code of progress and evolution will march forward with us as we progress through the scale, the hierarchy of the divine schools that God has granted each
Yeah,
and every one of us. Yes.
and that just as with, well, if we talk about the previous progress or the present progress,
Mm-hmm.
um, is a lesson of fairness as well, because yes, if we all will live at a place, at an environment that is adequate, that supports life to the level that we need, and as we refine this level of life, our constitution probably requires a more refined atmosphere and environment.
Mm-hmm.
So all that is provided. They are part of the whole creation as it refines.
Yes, absolutely. And this, Luiz, reminds us of a particular point that Kardec made on this chapter, where he says that as the spirit progresses and goes to different inhabited planets in the scale of evolution, it has to adapt its spiritual constitution to the constitution of that particular divine school, like a fish has to adapt
Yeah.
to its aquatic environment, to paraphrase Kardec more directly. So, what are your thoughts on this, Luiz?
Yeah, it's interesting. We can go by analogy, taking the fish that he gives as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Our body requires an environment formed with air. If I try to live under the water, I can do fragmented or minutes at a time, but I can't really live under the water because the environment, the substance that I'm going to be immersed in is not adequate for my body, for any of us. So it doesn't work. It's the same trying to get the fish out of the water into the air. It doesn't work. So it's very specific. Why is this happening? Because of the conditions of the body. The fish's body, our body, and so and so. When we take this as an example and go into the spirit world, it's the same thing. I can't simply decide, oh, I heard that Jupiter is great, is for very well developed and advanced spirits. So here's my suitcase, I'm ready
Oh,
to go, and I'm going to go to Jupiter. I wouldn't be able to because it's water for me. Water, using the analogy, okay? My perispirit, we're talking about spiritual level now. So it's not body, it's perispirit. So my perispirit cannot survive in an environment like that. And why is that? That's the interesting part. Because there is something called, in physics, we study that, specific weight. Okay? It's like this, for example. think about a recipient with water, and you have a little ball made of styrofoam. If you let the ball drop on the water, it's going to stay afloat on the surface. There's no way that this thing is going to go down. Same thing, if you get a ball made of iron, for example, and you let go, it's going to go to the bottom of the water, the recipient, and there's no way it's going to be anywhere else. However, if I hold with my hand the styrofoam ball and I immerse my arm or my hand halfway down, for as long as I secure and I grab the styrofoam ball, it's going to stay in there. Same for the iron ball. For as long as I have them in my hands. The minute that I let go, what happens to the styrofoam ball? It goes up to the surface. What happens to the iron ball? It goes down.
Sinks, yeah.
It's the same thing for us. When we discarnate, and the reason why that happens in physics is it's called specific weight. The specific weight of a styrofoam ball is less than the one for the water. The specific weight for iron is more than water. That's why you have the difference. It's the same thing when we discarnate. When we discarnate, we are not going to choose by decree or a meeting with God or something where I go. I'm going to go to it. I'm letting go. The body no longer holds the spirit now. So the perispirit is going to go to its compatible specific weight, to the level within where it belongs. And our bodies, our perispirits don't belong in Jupiter. Because the specific weight of Jupiter's spiritual layers is way, way, way higher than our perispirit. The same way, we are not going to go to the worst planets ever in terms of morality because our perispirit doesn't belong there either. So I can't choose. I can't say, well, I'm dying, so call God here because I need to make a treaty. Sign a treaty here. So you allow me to go to Jupiter and I'll love you forever. It's not possible. It's not possible. Because when we die or the places we can be depend not on the moment. It depends on the spiritual history. It's not punctual. It's a spiritual history that starts at simple and ignorant, and it goes to the present moment. So I can't go to Jupiter.
Not yet, right, Luiz? Not yet. One day, yes, but not yet, right?
Yeah.
But there's an interesting thing there too, isn't it? That's yes, because you cannot. Excuse me. We cannot go to anywhere without a preparation, without being fit for that environment, be it here in our work, in our school, and in the cosmos, isn't it? But and that goes back to why I said that there are some constellations that visit us, because we are granted the opportunity to go back if we choose it for a purpose, for a project, don't we?
What you just mentioned, Faye, reminded us of a report that was brought to light by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier once again, found in the book Renunciation. The spirit of Alcyone, the main spirit whose journey we follow in the book Renunciation, comes from a different planet. She comes from a planet called Sirius, and the planet is much more evolved than Earth. In the beginning of the book, Emmanuel in a very detailed manner, describes a meeting that she had with more evolved spirits that were overseeing her spiritual journey to request that she goes back to Earth on a mission.
Right.
So she explains to the guardian angels from this other planet that many of her loved ones still resided on Earth, and
Mhm.
that she wanted to be able to assist them as well as assist others, collectively speaking, with the two wings that we know are important for our evolution. One is wisdom, knowledge, and the other one is love in action, our feelings. So she already had the two wings, and she advocated on behalf of those dear to her heart, saying that if she went to Earth again, she came to Earth again temporarily, she could help them boost their wisdom and boost their ability to love by loving them herself. And her arguments, Emmanuel describes the arguments beautifully. Her arguments were so brilliant that the mentor spirits from super on high granted her the temporary permission to spend one reincarnation on Earth and then return to Sirius, which is the planet that, as Luiz mentioned, was more compatible to her level of evolution. So we see that even though the mentor spirits told Alcyone that her family members, her loved ones, and the earth in general were not ready to reach the same level of evolution that she had, she was allowed to go because she just wanted to put the love that she felt into action. So, yes.
Same for Jesus, came on a mission.
Yes, please tell us more, Luiz.
And it took him 1,000 years to
Yes.
work on his spirit to be able to come
Yeah,
to
I
such
imagine
a
that. Yeah.
gross matter, per se, planet. So it's difficult. It's not easy.
Not easy. Not easy. You're right, Luiz. And can you tell us more about Master Jesus's journey since you mentioned it, please?
Yeah. When he comes and does what he did, which is, not, first of all, he didn't say, do this. He showed us. He did it himself.
Mhm.
So we could believe, because we are in trials and expiations, our moral level is too low. So we could see with our five senses, hear him, see him, touch him, and go from there and see it's possible. There's a reference now that I didn't have before. So he left that reference in several different levels. And the most important reference he left is the moral code. So the moral code is what we should base on to be better as spirits, consequently as people incarnating and having better incarnations one after another, and so on. So, well, we have to use the reference code, and that's where the challenge is,
Mhm.
because not necessarily we do this, and when we do, it's very fragmented. We use for certain things, not for others. Uh, I like one of the phrases that Gandhi used to say is, "I love the Christians, but I don't know why they don't follow Christ." We need to stop and think. There's a
Yeah,
lot of wisdom in that phrase,
Mhm.
because that's
it's very to the point.
difficult it is for us to unfragment our, following the moral code.
Mhm. Absolutely. The moral code is key for our progress, for us to be able to evolve and move forward to other schools, as Faye has mentioned to other schools in the universe, because each planet is a divine school for us, and there are many, as we are citizens of the sky.
Yeah.
The thought that our dear Faye shared with us throughout the program, right, Faye? So what could you tell us, dear Faye, to encourage us to progress? Because Spiritism is the promised consoler. Now we are able to bring reason and faith together, and we have come to know that the earth is not the end all be all. Because of God's justice, God allows for us to have many schools in order to progress. As a teacher yourself, Faye,
Yeah, thanks.
what is a message that you could give us to encourage us to progress in the schools of life?
The first that the progress and the evolution as presented and invited by every single page written in and studied in Spiritism proposes that a moral code, the observation of a moral code of a personal betterment, not as a set of rules to be taken by heart, but to be taken on board from reasoning. They're taken on board because they make sense, because experience allows people to reason and measure and see what works and it doesn't, and why it works and why it doesn't, what is worth pursuing and what's not. So then, if you allow me, I think I'll go back to one sentence by our friend Camille Flammarion.
Please.
Exactly about that. He says, man does not live on bread alone. He requires thought. It's on rising to these noble contemplations that he becomes worthy of his rank. So it's by occupying his mind with these beautiful and fertile subjects of study that his countenance will preserve the divine expression of his destiny.
Beautiful.
I think this is beautiful, and that's it. And it says, and then he will shine more and more. So it's by, isn't it? It's not bread alone, and it's not thinking alone. It's, like I said, putting things to practice, reasoning, and being aware of the choices. Not because I said, because or anyone said. No, because life tells us, the logic of things tells us why love works and hatred doesn't.
Oh, how beautiful. Why love works and hatred doesn't. Beautiful. And building upon what you just said, Faye, Kardec, in the chapter that we are studying, when he tells us about the happy worlds where love truly works and hatred is not even a consideration, Kardec tells us that that the Spiritist science tells us that there will be no suffering, no disease, no pain. This is literally on the chapter that we are studying together tonight. When all of us reach the level of evolution where we are compatible with planets like
Yes.
Jupiter, there will be, number one, no suffering, no pain, no illnesses. And Luiz, you brought to us a very important observation as well, that Master Jesus did this movement himself as our guide and model. In the Spirit's book, we learn when Kardec asks, who is the most complete point of reference or model to ever come to earth for us? And the answer from the illuminated spirits is very straightforward and brilliant. One word answer: Jesus.
It's the fastest
Period.
answer.
It's probably the shortest answer in the Spirit's book, but
Yeah,
it's very empowering.
it
Jesus.
is. Yeah.
And Jesus brings to us the no to hatred and yes to love, as our dear Faye brought to our attention.
Mhm.
So, what can we do to boost our own capacity to follow our guided model in this very proposal of saying no to hatred inside of us and yes to love inside of us as well,
Yeah,
Luiz?
we start by just to before I answer, we start by saying no to hatred. There's going to be a point where you don't even see an option to say yes to hatred. But anyway, I think we miss and we let go a lot of opportunities. We circumvent things. For example, let's take one of them, envy, for example. So envy. Of course, we know we gotta, get this out of our soul one day. But it's hard. It's difficult. Depends on the person. But it's easier for some, more difficult for others. So let's say envy is there. How can I get it out? That's where the misconception, I think, is. I need to. I'm not gonna say to do a partnership, but I need to be close to those who caused envy in me. For example, somebody bought a car, and that's a tremendous, it knocked me out. So I need to get close to that person little by little, wisely, little by little, not to offend or to react badly, but to make it die. We call these people that trigger these things in us, we call them enemies. They were never the enemies. They are never going to be the enemies. If you think about the definition of enemy, you are in a battlefield, right? So you got two armies, right, facing each other. What is this army trying to do? Impede that this one advances and conquers land. So by definition, enemy is that one that stops us. The person who we envy doesn't stop me. I can still buy whatever he bought. I can still have the things or even other things. What stops me is hatred, envy, intolerance, impatience, desire to do war. Those are the enemies. The people that we call enemies, they are the opportunity that we have. I call them the battlefield. They are the opportunity that we have to go on the field and defeat the enemy. Now think about this. The two armies are going to meet to have some sort of war. If this army doesn't show up, this guy won. Automatically won. So when we don't meet the enemy, which are not enemy, if we don't go to meet these people and have some sort of the lightest, if possible, relationship, I'm losing the battle every time I circumvent. Oh, this person is going to be on that party. I'm not going to go to that party. This person is going to go to that school. I'm going to change schools. I don't like this particular person. I'm going to move out of town. Every time we do this, we are circumventing and missing the opportunity to face ourselves, face to face with the enemy. which is within. There's going to be a day that by approaching this person so many times, easy in the beginning and then more and more and more and more, envy is not going to make sense anymore. It's not that day that I showed up on the battlefield, I won.
Absolutely.
We don't go to the battlefield. That's where the thing is, I think.
That is right. We need to conquer ourselves. The battle is within. The more we conquer ourselves, the more we will become citizens of the skies, as Faye has brought to us, because we will love all the more. And there will be a point when it will come to us naturally, and this is when we will be ready to graduate to happier and happier schools in the universe. And the earth is destined to become one, depending upon us, each and every one of us.
And what's from what Luiz has just said, what Spiritism is teaching us is that instead of wasting time with envy, do it. You're free to do it. Why don't you learn how they got to that? Is that what you want to do? Learn it, work hard, and conquer it yourself. I mean, there's nothing stopping people to evolve, to learn, to acquire, to be prosperous. There's nothing wrong with prosperity. There's nothing wrong with with learning, with achievement. So instead of wasting time envying, being jealous, take the same route, work as hard, and get there.
Absolutely. Yes, we are destined to, because we are all going to become pure spirits, and pure spirits know everything.
Well, you've got to be resilient and work hard. It's not just a shower of petals over us.
Thank God it isn't, because in that way we can progress, right?
Yeah.
And we are so sorry to say this, friends. We wish we could stay here talking all night. 24 hours would not be enough to explore the wisdom behind what is Spiritism, Kardec's efforts, and the promised consoler as illuminated and brought to us by the Christ himself. So we are sad to say this, but we have to close our conversation. There will be more to come next week when we continue exploring Kardec's wisdom together. But for now, may we kindly ask that each of you share your final thoughts, please. Faye, would you like to share your final thoughts?
Well, thank you. First of all, it's been a privilege to be here talking to both of you, Carol and Luiz. As it's been a privilege to have got in touch and being able to read more and learn more, and hear so much enlightenment from good people like yourselves. I hope this reaches the whole planet.
Yes, the whole planet is destined to share of this divine light.
Beyond.
Beyond. Absolutely.
The signal is not stopping here. It's go beyond the
Absolutely. And much beyond. Absolutely. Thank you, dear Faye.
Voyager hasn't stopped yet.
Absolutely. How about you, Luiz? Please.
Yeah, I think the thing about evolution is the key for understanding that we have a destination, a preset destination, which is perfection. And whether we want or not, we will get there. So, and it's for our own good. It's not something that is happening to hurt me, to cause me to harm me. No, it's something good for us. So we will progress. Progressing means we are gonna at one point we are gonna have to change worlds because we are gonna be more advanced. And if I know that, not that I believe, if I know that, why not, right? It's difficult. Yes, it is. But if it's difficult, we are not applying the logic of the moral code, which is the only channel, the only thing that's going to take me there. Every time we practice vices, I'm going to have to offset wrongdoings in the future. That's going to delay things. So it's difficult. Yes, it is. That's why studying and acquiring more knowledge is important. Using references from other people who went through it. Jesus is the master, but there are other great examples. Paul is one of them.
Mhm.
Within the same lifetime, he was able to go from one side to the other altogether and quickly, because it's not a lifetime of 90 years like we had before. In a few years, let's say less than 10 years, he went from one end to another, and then he continued on that. So understanding that creating evil it goes against ourselves. You see, when I desire something bad for somebody, let's just say I'm gonna talk bad about this particular person. For this to get to the person, before it gets delivered to the person, it has to be created. Who is creating that? I am. So where is evil? It's within. When we understand that evil is created by us, and we are the first to kind of feel it negative. So
True.
I think that's the idea.
Thank you, Luiz, so much for helping us understand why it is important for us to be co-creators with God in the good. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be here together, learning and multiplying the good with the help of one another. Thank you, dear friends. We look forward to seeing you both right here on Kardec Radio very, very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very
Bye,
much.
friends.
Bye.
Bye. All the
Thank
best.
you. Thank you so much.